What's up guys, your friendly neighbor Damon here, bringing you a new video, and today we're going to look at how to improve in CSGO. In particular, we're going to be looking at how to improve your aim / mechanics within the game. We're going to be looking at some more basic stuff of how the weapon mechanics work within CSGO, as well as different training regimes and workshop maps and other tools you can use to help improve your aim, as well as discussing what kind of sensitivity and thought process you should use in how to improve your aim, understanding your weaknesses and your strengths, and looking at it objectively to how you can round out your aim and mechanics to become a better player. Before we go into the video, I would really like if you could like the video, subscribe and comment what you think, check out my other content, and yeah, let's get into this. To start off with, we're going to talk about the hot topic of aim, which is sensitivity. Sensitivity is quite a personal thing. It's all about what you're comfortable playing with and the setup that you have, the position that you sit in, etc. So there's a lot of variables coming into this. But the best thing to do is understanding your strengths and weaknesses in the first place, which could come with time. At the beginning of playing an FPS game, you should set it with whatever you're comfortable with, and then you should tweak it depending on what you feel is your weakness and what you feel is your strength coming into it. For example, if you've got quite good flicky reflexy aim, maybe you can get away with a higher sensitivity and use that to your advantage. But if you have quite good precision and first bullet accuracy, maybe you want a lower sensitivity to really take advantage of that. It's all up to the user and their playstyle. So tailoring it to yourself is essential. I'm going to go into a couple of extreme examples of sensitivity in CSGO. Before doing that, I'm going to go into a bit about eDPI. eDPI essentially means effective DPI. This is a combination of your DPI of your mouse as well as your in-game sensitivity. The way you calculate it is you simply multiply one with the other. For example, if I'm running 800 DPI on my mouse and I'm running a 1 sensitivity in the game, I have an eDPI of 800 because 800 times 1 is 1. If I'm running 2 sensitivity in the game and 800 DPI, I have a eDPI of 1600, an effective DPI of 1600. So with that understanding, we can look at a couple of examples. So on the low end of the spectrum, we have Nico. Nico is running one of the lowest sensitivities in the game at the moment. We obviously know him for his precision, his one taps, and that reflects in his sensitivity. His stable sense being 400 DPI at 1.35 sensitivity in game, giving an effective DPI of 540 as we can see. This low sense gives him the stability and the precision to allow him to do these amazing one taps that we see and the precision that we see from Nico. On the other end of the spectrum, we have probably the highest sense player in CSGO. Everyone knows Woxic does this. He has 1600 DPI and 1.5 sensitivity. That gives an effective DPI of 2400. This is an effective DPI more than 4 times that of Nico. So Woxic is running 4 times the sense of Nico. You can see this in his style with the flick precision and the fast turning ability. He really uses it to advantage, from turning from flashes to flicking onto enemies with the AWP. Also to note, you can see that there is zoom sensitivity within the game. This is for ADS guns like the AWP, the Scout, the AUG, and the Krieg within the game, or the SG. This will multiply your sensitivity when you're zoomed into the scope. Quite often it's normal to leave it as 1, but this is entirely dependent on, again, on who you are and what kind of AWPer or rifler you are. If you want a lower sense in the scoped in with the AUG, for example, you could lower this and have a bit more precision with those scopes. It will also affect how fast you can turn and flick with the scope, so it all depends on what kind of style you're going for. If you have a gaming mouse, you should be able to change your DPI on your mouse, and then obviously you go in-game settings and you can change your sensitivity, both your normal sensitivity and your zoom sensitivity within the game. You can see that mine is a 0.8 sensitivity and 1.2 sense in zoom, and I run 800 DPI. Moving on to some of the fundamental weapon mechanics within the game. One of the biggest mistakes I see beginners do is they try and run and gun with the rifles and other guns. This is obviously a habit from playing games like Call of Duty or maybe Overwatch, etc. But you cannot do this in CSGO for the most part. Especially with things like the rifle, the AWP, you basically cannot be moving with the gun in order to be accurate as demonstrated. The bullets will go in random directions and it won't be at all accurate. But saying that, with other lighter guns like the SMGs and some pistols, you can be running with them and be relatively accurate. A general rule is the weaker the gun, the more you can move with it and be accurate. For example, the Glock is pretty much fully accurate when running. The SMGs are very accurate. The USP is very accurate. And you can really take advantage of that and make it hard for riflers to kill you by using your movement. But you need to stand still with a rifle in order to be precise with it. Otherwise, the bullets will fly everywhere. You have to be dead still with the AWP in order to be accurate. The most powerful gun in the game. As well as one headshot guns like the Deagle, you need to be pretty much completely still in order to be accurate. This moves on nicely to a concept called counter-strafing. Counter-strafing is essentially cancelling out the movement that you have in order to become accurate with your gun. So essentially, if you're running hard left and you tap hard right on your keyboard, if you get the timing right, you can stop dead and be completely accurate with your gun. You can even be accurate without letting go of your movement keys on your keyboard if you get the timing right on the counter-strafe. And if you get good at doing this kind of thing, you can do things like jiggle peek with the Deagle, as you can see here, where I get this clip on Nuke jiggle peeking someone in heaven from outside with the Deagle. I'm counter-strafing and jiggle peeking using this method and being completely accurate with the Deagle. Using this jiggle, you can see he basically doesn't even see me by doing it. So practicing your counter-strafing can be very useful. Another important concept of weapon mechanics to understand is spray control. Every automatic gun in the game has a spray pattern. You can see the spray pattern on the particular gun if you purchase the gun and spray against a wall. The idea behind spray control is to mirror this pattern with the movement of your mouse. You can practice this on any map, but the map I'm currently on is a map by Uletical. The map is called Recoil Master. You can find this map if you go to the Steam Workshop and type in Uletical. There's also a couple of other maps that he does that we'll be looking at in a sec, but for now, let's focus on this Recoil Master map. You can find all the guns on the left-hand side wall that you can practice your spray control, and you can see the spray pattern of the guns at the top above the wall you're spraying at. There's nothing else to spray control than literally just spraying at a wall and trying to hit the same spot while just unloading the mag fully. The Recoil Master map gives you a circle in order to aim at and focus on. If you run back and then forward, all the decals and bullet holes will disappear so you can see where your spread is on your next spray. Spray control is something you have to spend a lot of time to get used to, especially learning different weapons. You should probably focus on one gun at a time for extended periods of time and focus on the main rifles that are used, like the AK-47 and the M4A4. There is also a bullet spread to take into consideration. This is a random spread of the bullets that is random every time you spray the gun or use any gun for that instance that you cannot control. You can only control so much of the spray with the spray pattern, and the spread is something you just have to deal with, which is what makes it so hard to spray people down at longer ranges, and you should probably opt for tapping. This bullet spread is also involved with any other gun like the pistols. Although they're not automatic, if you spam a pistol, it will have some sort of spread to it. And some guns have less spread than others. For example, again, the Glock has the most tight spread of any of the pistols. The USP has a bit more, and so on. The Deagle is the worst. If you just spam it, it's not going to go anywhere. You have to wait for it to reset and take your time with the shots. Once you've mastered your spray control, you can start thinking about spray transfers and crab walk sprays. You can actually be accurate with guns if you are crouched and moving to the side, and this is an incredibly powerful tactic when going against higher level players, because it's a lot harder to track and spray someone than it is to spray a standing target. But on the other hand, it's a lot harder to control your spray while crab walking. Moving on to something that everyone probably thinks is the fundamental of aiming, which is flicking. This is obvious in the name of flicking your mouse to the target that you want to aim at. It is an incredibly powerful thing to be good at. It is arguably one of the most important things you should practice, and the thing that people most likely practice most often, but it should not be leaned upon in your playstyle. Again, we can go to an ooletical map in order to train this. This map is called Aim Bots. Bots with a Z or a Z if you're that way inclined. And all it does is spawn bots in an area that you can shoot over and over again until your heart's content. But rather than just randomly shooting bots, we should be more systematic about our approach. We should not just be as fast as possible and flick ourselves around willy-nilly. We should concentrate on being accurate and precise in order to train good habits. This means making sure your crosshair is on the target, but obviously preferably the head, because of the one shot bullet accuracy, particularly with the AK, and then having the timing to click mouse 1 at the right time. After training these good habits with making sure we are being precise, we can then start thinking about being faster. You can measure your speed with the timed system in the aimbots map, where you can shoot 100 bots and see how long it takes you. You can use this to measure your improvement over time. For example, I recall when I first started playing CSGO more seriously, I was running about a 1 minute 17 time to kill 100 bots, and now I average about 55 seconds. 55 seconds is not that fast. I'm not claiming to be the best aimer in the world. Some of my friends do it in about 45, but they are clearly better reflex flicky aimers than me. This is also a good time to mention another application for training your aim called Aim Labs. This is a free game on Steam where you can train your aim. There are various tasks in order to train different areas of your aim. In particular, we're looking at flicking at the moment, so the grid shot task is a good way of training that, and probably the most popular task on the game. The game can mimic your sensitivity and resolution in the game in order to be a close match to Counter-Strike. It doesn't quite feel the same, but it does get relatively close to the way it feels in both games. With the grid shot task, it also challenges your vertical flicking as well as horizontal. Obviously, the aimbots task only basically challenges your horizontal aim, whereas grid shot is going to challenge you in multiple directions and improve your mouse control. Now, arguably the opposite of flicking is crosshair placement. Having a good crosshair placement basically means you don't have to aim at all. What crosshair placement is placing your crosshair on the position where your enemy is most likely going to be, and then moving into that position to line your crosshair up with that target. For the example we see here, I'm using the YPRAC map on Inferno. YPRAC is another set of maps like Ooletical that can aid you in your aim training. They have this setup where you can go on different positions on different maps and practice your crosshair placement. In this example, the banana position, but it has on all maps: Vertigo, Inferno, Overpass, etc. It's worth checking out the YPRAC maps because there are other tasks you can use to improve your aim, and they're really useful. But talking about crosshair placement, having good crosshair placement, as we said, is basically negating the need to do any flicking at all or very minor adjustments to your aim. And having your crosshair in the right place means you can be faster in terms of aiming at your target and more efficient in the way that you are using your mouse. This is especially essential for taking map control on the T side entry fragging, as well as taking map control on the CT side if you're going the other way. Some of the best entry fraggers have the best crosshair placement and are generally looking in the right direction at the right time in the way that they clear angles. Rops is a good example of this. He's not an entry fragger, but he's known to be checking things and clearing angles out systematically. You can train crosshair placement using these YPRAC maps, as well as just being conscious of it during your matches, thinking about where your crosshair is as you're rounding the corner and thinking about where the enemy is most likely to be. Eventually you'll start doing this subconsciously and you'll be aiming in the right direction when taking different parts of the map. Obviously this will take time in learning the angles on the maps and spending time doing that, but again the YPRAC maps will help you do that by doing repetitions and practice. Another essential concept of aim is tracking. This involves tracking targets with your mouse as they move across the screen. This can be particularly hard in CSGO because of the speed of the movement and the size of the target, not to mention the other mechanics that are involved in the game. Going back to aim labs, there are tracking tasks that can help you track targets and practice your mouse control on moving targets. There are several tasks in order to practice this in aim labs. On this example, we're looking at the multi-track one where there are multiple targets and we're switching targets and continuing to track. But there are other ways of practicing tracking in CSGO. A map called aim/reflex training, you can find in the Steam Workshop, is a map where you stand in the center and bots run at you from all different directions and fall into the pit in front of you and jump as well. This constant movement allows you to practice your tracking in the game using various different weapons. Arguably the best way to do this is using the deagle because it is the most unforgiving when it comes to accuracy. It means you have to track correctly and have the correct timing when shooting your targets. There is also a YPRAC task called Defense on the YPRAC maps. This is where you're placed in a position on a particular map, and again, bots are on the map. Rather than being static this time, you are attacking bots that are moving. These bots move in more of a realistic manner to real players. They are strafing, crouching, counter-strafing, stopping, and it allows you to have a different dynamic and feel for different parts of the map and aiming areas, as well as training your tracking. Again, you could do this using the deagle to make it most challenging, but you can use pistols or other rifles. I personally often use the USP in this situation. Now we understand the main concepts and mechanics of CSGO aiming. We have to put in the time and train. It can be essential to create your own routine to your own strengths and weaknesses. Understanding what you're good at, understanding what you're bad at, putting in the right time in the right places in order to improve. For example, I tend to struggle with moving targets, so I spend a lot of time on aim reflex training as well as YPRAC's defense task. But this is entirely dependent on what you are good and bad at, as we discussed. Then once we trained everything we wanted to, we can go into deathmatch and train there. Deathmatch is a good supplement for your aim training. It puts to test everything that you've been working on against people that actually shoot back. You can go to this custom servers in CSGO and find several different server providers for deathmatch free-for-all. On these servers you'll find higher skilled players who challenge yourself. And the final piece of the puzzle is taking your newfound aim into the matches. Whether that be matchmaking, FACEIT, ESEA, your new aim and understanding will be effective. Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. As I said at the start, please subscribe, like, comment, all of that kind of stuff. You can also follow my Twitter, etc., which can be found in the description below. And I hope to see you next time. See you soon.